Hello, Zippo fans all around the world. Danny Jordan coming to you for the first time ever from Zippo headquarters right here in the heart of Bradford, Pennsylvania. I'm so excited for this month's artist live stream. The guest that we have joining us here today is incredible. We got to hang out a bit yesterday, and you guys are going to be so excited to hang out with this person today. As always, I love for you guys to be a part of this live stream. So please get active in the comments wherever you're watching, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, the moon, wherever you are watching this thing. Please get active in the comments. Love to know, where are you watching from? So let us know, city, state, country, wherever you're watching around the world. Post that in the comments. I also love to find out how many Zippo lighters you have in your collection. It never ceases to amaze me when we do these lives, just how many lighters you all have in your collection. So please get active in the comments. We'll be giving you guys shout outs all throughout the live stream here today. And if you have questions for our guest, please make sure to post those in the comments. You know, I have a lot of questions prepared for this individual, but we want you all to be a part of that conversation as well. So once we unveil all the excitement here today, if there's questions you have about the design, about this person's process, please post them in the comments and you might get your question asked live here today. But speaking of that guest, without further ado, I think it's time to bring that person in. Please welcome to our live stream, Mr. Eric Jones. How you doing, my friend?
Excellent, excellent. Glad
the Pumpkin King, the pumpkin carving king is here today. Look at, you got a belt and everything.
Absolutely.
I mean,
legitimate.
What does that say on there?
Outrageous Pumpkins Grand Champion.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you won the competition show, Outrageous Pumpkins.
Yes, Food Network Season 3, Outrageous Pumpkins.
I mean, what was that experience like?
It was unbelievable. It was like a 2-week-long roller coaster. It was
Really?
I loved it. It was probably the most fun professional experience of my life.
Well, next to this that we're having here today, this is, you know,
until this point.
Yeah, winning a competition was number one, but now that you get to hang out with me here in Bradford, that's going to be your new number one. Amazing. Well, we have something very exciting to unveil here today. But before we do that, I want to learn a little bit more about you. You know, your journey to becoming a pumpkin carver is really interesting to me. You and I got to have lunch yesterday. We had a great conversation, and you didn't start with pumpkin carving. What did you start with?
Well, at 3-4 years old, I was an artist, and I'm still a caricature artist by trade. Yeah, there's not a lot of art schools that offer pumpkin carving. I don't know what that
really?
is. Yeah, it's so strange.
Come on, schools. Get on Harvard. Where's the pumpkin carving major? Come on.
But I wanted to hone my 2D skills, so I started getting into sculpting, and I kind of fell in love with it, and now it's become a career.
That's incredible. I feel like I want to unveil this, but I also like making the people wait a little bit. Maybe we'll make them wait a little bit longer. So you started as a caricature artist. How many caricatures have you done to date?
So in my career, about 25 years, I've drawn almost 300,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like just, you know, normal everyday people or celebrities as well?
A little bit of everything. Some of them online, some of them in live events all over the world.
That's incredible. Yeah. What drew you to caricature art?
Since I was a little kid, I always drew people with actual anatomy. I never drew stick people because I saw volume, and people couldn't really understand that. I never went through the stick figure stage, so I just realized that I had an ability to see people differently, and I've always had a passion of creating figuratively.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. You know what I love about these live streams, Eric, is that we have people from all around the globe who are joining us. And I see that we've got George, who's joining us, who has 800 lighters. We've got Rebecca from Rothbury, Michigan. Who else did I see out there? We've got Jennifer Ward. Met you at Harvest Fest, it looks like. We got Steven Sutton from Pennsylvania, which is where we're at, Buffalo, New York. Jack is checking in. George is from Austria.
Nice.
That's incredible. All the way out in Austria. Isn't that cool that there's collectors all around the world? Scotland, one of my favorite places in the world is the Highlands in Scotland. Daytona Beach, Florida. North Tonawanda, did I get that right? Tonawanda, New York.
Buffalo.
Nailed it. North Carolina is here. West Clarksville, New York. Vietnam. People are all around the world. So thank you so much for checking in. If you're just joining the live stream, let us know where you're watching from in the world, and let us know how many Zippo lighters you have in your collection. How many do you have in your collection?
That was my wife on there. She said we have 6, but I should have more than that.
I mean, you're here at the Zippo offices. I mean, I feel like
I might leave with a couple extra.
If there were anywhere in the world that you could make that happen, this
is the place.
Feels like the place. Right. Okay, so Eric, there's a perennial sort of like elephant covered cloth in the room, and I feel like it is time that we pull this back and we unveil what is hiding
I'm all for that.
underneath
Nobody
here.
will ever guess what it is.
I wouldn't guess. I mean, there's pumpkins here. What could possibly be underneath? So do we want to do this like together on the count of three?
Let's reach around the front and lift up so we don't.
So are we going on three? So
no,
I go
no, everybody does
three.
that wrong. It should be 3, 2, 1, go.
Go.
It should
Okay.
never be the other.
Like rock, paper, scissors,
exactly.
shoot. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, go. All right, here we go. Drum roll, please. Everyone watching all around the world. 3, 2, 1.
There it is.
I was about to get very aggressive with that. I was about to rip this thing back, and the pumpkin would have fallen off the ground, and it would have been great content.
Yes.
It would have gone viral, as they say. Oh my gosh, look at this design, Eric. What am I looking at here? What was the inspiration behind this?
So with pumpkin carving, normally what I'm doing when I'm carving pumpkins, I'm taking a pumpkin, I'm making it look like something other than a pumpkin.
Right.
But to put this on a lighter, I needed to use what makes a pumpkin and utilize it. So the stem, the creases, where all the stem comes together, it's got that scowling face. So we use the stem as the actual nose, and I think it kind of it says this is a pumpkin, but it's a cool face on a pumpkin. So,
I am pumpkin, hear me roar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is sort of what this is saying. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. I mean, what kind of tools does one use for carving something like this?
I actually brought the tools so you can see.
Did you?
Unfortunately, you can't buy these tools at a gas station. You think
so? I can't just go to the grocery store and get my like plastic handled knife with the blade that bends back every time I try to carve
it should
through
be
the
a
thing.
fancy grocery store. If that's so these are handmade tools by other professional pumpkin carvers.
Oh my gosh.
We're kind of a close-knit community. We're a bunch of pumpkin nerds, and we make our own tools and share them with each other.
That's incredible. So how many tools are in your collection
I
here?
have hundreds, but these are the ones I use most of the time, and they're covered with pumpkin because every day this is what I'm doing.
I feel like we would expect nothing less than have these.
Oh,
let's get a close shot of that.
Yeah, they're filthy. They're covered in pumpkin. That's the way they should look, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It means it's sort of like when you play sports, and it's like at the end of the game, if your jersey's not covered in dirt or grass, like
you're sitting the bench.
Were you even in the game?
Exactly,
you know, like that's what I want to see from a pumpkin carver's tools. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are curious about the process with something like this. We put together a really cool time lapse when you were carving this here at the offices the other day. So, production team, can we pull up that time lapse? I would love to show everybody what Eric did to make this incredible design happen. So let's pull it up, and maybe you can talk us through what we're seeing. So what's happening here? What's this step?
This is very slow motion. Oh, there we go. That's my speed. That's my speed. So I started by taking the skin off the pumpkin, deciding what I'm going to create, and then I'm basically focusing on the ribs of the pumpkin. And a lot of times the pumpkin itself will tell you what it's going to be.
Really?
Based on the ribs, the form, you know, the way the stem looks, it kind of has this nose like it's dropping down, and the scowl look that comes into the nose looks like a grimacing face naturally. So the pumpkin itself is telling me what it's going to be. Wow. All I've got to do is remove the material to reveal it.
That's incredible. Like, this is a skill that, like, I think you just have. Like, I don't think I've ever looked at a pumpkin and go, oh, he wants to have a scowling face and some teeth, and that's his nose. That's just, and is that the case, like, with every pumpkin that you carve? Like, you feel like it sort of just talks to you and lets you know?
It's a blessing and a curse. Every pumpkin patch I walk through, every pumpkin's telling me, make this, make me into this, make me into this. Unfortunately, I can't afford to buy every pumpkin I see, but I'd love to.
Is there a specific shape of pumpkin that you prefer to work with?
It depends on what I'm making. On a case like this, you want a pumpkin that's flatter, wider, with an interesting looking stem to create that face on the top of the pumpkin. Okay. Usually if I'm creating a face on the side, I want it to be a little bit taller and longer, but the more unique looking the pumpkin, the better.
Oh, it's amazing. And so we're seeing this obviously in a time lapse. So this is happening very, very quickly. It's just over a minute, but in real time, how long did this take you?
Something like this would take about an hour.
Hour and a half. So from the carving, here's the big reveal here. And now this is where it gets really exciting, Eric, is this pumpkin is now this month's limited edition drop for our artist live stream series for the month of October. And I'm sure people, especially Halloween lovers, you know, fall harvest lovers, are seeing this and thinking, I got to add this thing to my collection. So we have 250 only, and we have signed certificates of authenticity by you that are going to be coming with every single order exclusively on Zippo.com. And I can attest that these are authentic because I was here yesterday when you hand delivered those certificates to everybody. And just how cool. They handed me one as well. Right? I've got one here as well. Take a look at that. Boom.
Beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful? Did you get one?
I hope I get one.
Well, you can have mine. If they don't give you one, I tell you what, I feel like it's only fair that you get it. But this thing is just stunning. What I love about it is obviously you've got the design that we're seeing on the front, but then on the back, it's got this Halloween vibe as well with the moon and, you know, the bats sort of flying through the sky. So it really creates this super spooky sort of scene. I got to ask you, like, as an artist, you know, starting out in caricatures, now getting into pumpkins, like, how cool is it to have your work featured on a Zippo
incredible.
lighter?
This, from a tangible standpoint, this is
Yeah.
right up there with my belt. Okay, so my belt will go on my shoulder and that'll go in my pocket. I'm so proud of it.
It's incredible. And I mean, you've got that iconic Zippo
That
sound.
sound, you love it.
And it's your art, and how cool that people all around the world are gonna be carrying this around with them, have it up on display. I mean, that's got to be a beyond words sort of situation, right?
It really is. I never thought when I was, you know, 4 years old, drawing people on the bottom of my kitchen table, that I would ever be doing something like this for a great company like Zippo. This is amazing.
Right. Well, let's get into that a bit, because I feel like every artist, every creative sort of has like their story, how they got into art. Like, what was the impetus? Like, what was the inspiration for you to become an artist?
So I really believe that most of my gifts I was born with and gifted with, and God just kind of gave me this ability to see things differently. And it was just a matter of turning that into something productive as a career. So when I was 3, 4, 5 years old, I remember drawing and depicting things and having an obsession with it, and then comparing it to other people, other kids my age, and being confused that they couldn't see what I could see. So at a very, very young age, I started to learn what my skills were. And probably by the age of 10, 12 years old, I was going to be a professional artist, and I was certain of it.
Really?
And I became the world's biggest 9-year-old is how I explain myself. So, you know, there's some other things that I do, which we'll get into, but
Yeah.
I'm basically a huge 9-year-old, and I just take simple, childish hobbies and loves of art and turn it into something bigger.
That's beautiful. Now, did you have any sort of mentors along the way, you know, close family members, friends that were those people that were your early champions that told you, like, you've got a gift and you got to do this?
Yeah. So both of my grandmothers are very artistic. They both passed, but amazing artists, and they were very supportive of me as a child, my passion in art. And then when I started to say, look, I want to pursue this as a career, both of my grandmothers said, you should do that. It wasn't like, yeah, that'll be a fun hobby, but get a real job, Eric. You know, it was you go ahead and pursue that. I think you can do that. I think you're good enough to do that. So that kind of motivation inspired me.
Was there a moment, I love asking artists this question, you know, because we have like these dreams as kids, right? And you have your grandmothers who say, you can do this. But there's always, I feel like, a moment where we ourselves have that realization that, oh, this isn't just something that I can do casually for fun. I can do this professionally. Did you have a moment where like somebody first bought a piece of art for you or something like that? You're like, wow, I can really do this.
Yeah, well, once I started an online business doing caricatures, and I wanted to push myself, I kind of made a decision to put myself in uncomfortable situations on stages that were bigger than me. And I thought, okay, if I fail, I fail, but I'll never know what my capabilities are if I just stay here. Right. So I started doing television shows and started doing well on them. So I just kept getting, you know, bigger and bigger and pushing myself further. So I just keep, and sky's the limit, you know, it just keeps going. I love it.
It's amazing. So you, speaking of the TV shows that you've been on, like carving, like, you know, casually, you know, for most of us who do it in our kitchen, you know, the newspaper underneath, that's one thing. But like doing it with the bright lights and the cameras around and knowing that like whether you move on or not depends on every design, like what is your process as an artist? Like how stressful is that sort of situation? How did you navigate that?
Strangely, I don't know what this is, but the more pressure I'm under, the better I perform. So I work faster and I actually work better when I'm under stress. So when the lights and the camera are on me and there's all kinds of pressure, that's when I do my best work. And I'm about myself. So I some things coming up. I'm currently going to be carving in a couple of weeks the Guinness Book of World Record largest pumpkin ever grown.
Really?
Yes.
Where was this pumpkin grown?
This was grown in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Really?
The venue was still to be determined, but I've acquired that, and you know, Zippo's been fantastic. They're a big part of all of what I do. Right. And we're going to be doing the largest. I'll have 2 Guinness records, so it'll be the largest pumpkin in circumference was close to 25 feet.
Wow.
And 2,749 pound.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And will you carve it much like you do this?
It'll be a veterans theme. So it'll be a Veterans Day release. So it'll have a veterans theme. It's a little bigger than this one, as you can imagine.
Slightly.
It's about the size of a Volkswagen Bug.
That's incredible. And how are they getting it? Like they put on a trailer and
right
that's
now,
how they truck it?
It's on a big flatbed truck, and it's being shown all over the world right now.
Really?
But it could be coming out this way. We'll see. We're still working on that.
I mean, I feel like they got to take that thing on tour, right? That feels like that needs to happen.
Yeah,
right?
it actually had to go out to San Francisco for the World Way Offs.
Okay.
And
that's a thing?
Oh, it's all. It's a huge thing.
The
Oh,
world
it's
way
like a Taylor
off.
Swift concert. It's just
Oh my
incredible.
gosh.
But since then, it's been all over the country. People just coming out and seeing it. Everybody wants to see the biggest pumpkin ever grown.
I
And I
mean,
get to carve the biggest pumpkin ever grown.
and so what will be your carving technique for that? I assume you use tools a little bit bigger than this one, or no?
Well, I'll use these tools for most of it. I'll start out with something like either a reciprocating saw or a chainsaw.
Okay.
Because you're probably looking at a 16 to 20 inch thick wall of pumpkin.
My gosh.
So the thickness of the wall of the pumpkin will be bigger than this entire pumpkin.
Wow.
And I'll start with a chainsaw and get down where I want. And then I'll use all hand tools to actually detail everything.
So you cut all the way through, or will it be more like the facade sort of design like you've done here?
So,
it'll be both. Okay.
So in order to meet those Guinness Book of World Record criteria, there has to be a jack-o'-lantern element to it. So there's parts I need to go all the way inside of the pumpkin, and there's going to be parts that are just going to be three-dimensionally carved. So it'll have a combination, and it'll be illuminated as well.
Oh my gosh, this is incredible. And so how can people keep up to date on this? Should they follow your social media?
They can follow my social media, and there'll be links to Zippo as well. And I'm sure Zippo will be sharing that too. So you can.
That's amazing. So if people have been considering, should I buy this lighter or not? Not only will you have the Pumpkin Carving Kings lighter, but a Guinness World Records design. So I think as of 2 minutes from right now, this will be available on Zippo.com. So you're going to want to make sure you get it quick. I mean, spooky season, people who are into spooky season are like, into spooky season. Yeah. So I guarantee these are going to go super, super quick, and people are going to want this in time, for Halloween. Maybe they'll be lighting up the candles inside their pumpkins.
Light the inside of the pumpkin with a Zippo.
Oh, we got to, if you do that, you got to post it on Instagram and tag Zippo and tag Eric in it and tag me in it, because I love to see it as well. I want to see you guys lighting your pumpkins this holiday, or I almost call it holiday season. It's coming. This Halloween. I'm sorry, it's always holiday season in my heart, but this Halloween season, you're going to want to make sure you light your pumpkin with that. So I'm curious, Eric, you said you started with caricatures, which is 2D, and you wanted to sort of fine tune that skill by getting into 3D. Why pumpkins? Like, why did you go to pumpkins?
Well, I've always loved Halloween, and I always had a fascination with Halloween. And as a kid, I grew up in the 80s and 90s when we had those horrible, cheap plastic costumes where the rubber band broke after the third house.
Snap the back of your head.
Your snot would be coming through. Yeah. It was one of those. So that's kind of the era I grew up in, but Halloween was, and I loved carving pumpkins, and I was always fascinated with great pumpkin carvers. So I got a little complacent with my 2D work, and I wanted to expand and learn how to sculpt, thinking that would help hone my 2D skills.
Yeah.
And it was pumpkin season. I just started carving. I fell in love with it. And somebody actually sent one of my carvings into the Food Network, who asked me to audition for the show. And then it just kind of snowballed from there.
Amazing. One thing that I failed to point out about your lighter, this thing's glow in the dark.
Yes.
As well.
That's the coolest part. Halloween.
I know. I wish I could show you guys, but it's so bright. We got the lights on. You'll have to take our word for it. But I mean, one of the coolest features that Zippo is able to do with their lighters is not only do they have, this 540 technology, this full color wrap, which is amazing, but that this is glow in the dark as well, which is what you want, I think, from a Halloween lighter. Is you want, where's my lighter? Oh, it's glowing in the the drawer over there. You'll never, as long as you get this under sufficient light, you should never lose this thing. Plus, how cool that you'll be like walking around. Like I almost love the idea of people being out trick or treating and just seeing this like glowing pumpkin sort of in their hand as they're out with their kids. So definitely add this because it's got all those cool elements to it. Now we do have some questions that are coming in from people all around the world. We had Jennifer Ward asked, what can be done to help preserve a carved pumpkin? That's a great question.
That's a great question. It's probably the most asked question that I get during pumpkin season. Unfortunately, the answer is nothing. Pumpkins are about 75% water. Once you break the skin of the pumpkin, they start to dehydrate quickly. They shrivel up. There is one method that you can use to preserve the look of the pumpkin once it's carved. That's not if it's painted. If it's only carved, you can submerge it in water. Like an aquarium, in a glass aquarium, so you can enjoy it. It's the only way. People talk about you spray with bleach, it slows the bacterial deterioration, but really once you carve a pumpkin, it's going to rot. But I actually think that's the beauty of it. That's temporary.
It kind of adds to also the spooky nature of it. If you carve your pumpkin like a week before Halloween, and then like it's starting to like sort of shrivel up a little bit, it feels like it gets spookier as it goes. So like when you carve something like this, will this last longer than like if you jab a knife all the way through it and pull out all the guts, will this last longer?
This will last longer because we didn't expose the inside.
Okay.
Once you expose the inside of the pumpkin, you'll let the bacteria and it'll rot from the inside out.
Okay.
But the beauty of this is going to rot, but the lighter won't.
Yeah.
And you'll always have that image on the lighter. That's pretty cool.
That's a great sales line. You should host these things from now on. I'm going to stand over. Maybe I'll just walk
I was
off.
practicing that.
Yeah, as long as I can have the belt, you know, I'll walk out of here. But that is a great point, that this pumpkin will always be fresh. And
Yes.
you know, if you love this design, and you know, obviously this pumpkin is going to rot, but how cool that the design will live on forever here. So just want to let everyone know, I mentioned this earlier, I teased it, that the link was going to be dropping very soon, so you could go secure this lighter right here, and it is live. So you can stay here, you know, on our live stream, hang out with us, listen to us talk about pumpkins and spooky season and all that sort of fun stuff. But go to Zippo.com and secure your lighter. Buy one for yourself, buy one for that, you know, spooky season Halloween lover in your life, because this is like, feels like the perfect gift.
Yes.
There's a few spooky season lovers in my life. I'm like, oh my gosh, they would geek out so much about that. But I'm just going to rub this in their face and be like, I got one.
Of course.
And you didn't, because there's only 250. And once they're gone, folks, they are gone. We had a question that came in, looks like from Ross. They want to know the biggest pumpkin that you've ever worked on up until the world record. What's been the biggest one so far for you?
This is a great question, Ross. So I've worked on some huge pumpkins. Actually, last week I worked on a 2,023-pound pumpkin. I'll be working on a 2,200-pound pumpkin in about a week. But the largest last year, I did a charity carve for wounded warriors, and it was about 2,400, like 2,391, somewhere in there. That was my largest up until we're going to be doing the world record. So I'm used to carving big pumpkins. And the one that I did on television to win the championship was about 1,600 pounds. So
Whoa.
I'm not afraid of big pumpkins.
He's not afraid. I love that. That's where you're the pumpkin carving king. So a great question from Chuck just came in. Chuck wanted to know, have you done other Zippo designs?
This is my first Zippo design. This is it.
Another reason for people to get this.
Oh, there's other things that I carve, which we'll get into, but this is my very first, so you got to get this one.
Oh my gosh, what a cool moment, right?
It is.
You know, because you're from from far away from Zippo, right?
Yeah, that's what's so amazing is I live less than an hour from the Zippo factory, so I've known the Zippo people my whole life.
You know this town. I mean, I've been so fortunate, you know, in this week that I've been here hanging out in Bradford, just to learn more about the culture of Zippo and to meet, you know, locals who, you know, talk about how pivotal and critical Zippo is to the town of Bradford, and just the commitment that this company has made for over 90 years is incredible. And I was so fortunate I got to tour the museum and go over to the factory. So if you're ever in Bradford or driving through the area, and even if you don't have Zippos or you're not a museum person, you got to go there, because just like there's so many things about this brand. Like, we know the iconic sound of a Zippo lighter. You know, there's so many collectors around the world, but when you go and you learn how much this brand has been a part of the fabric of America for over 90 years, it's absolutely incredible. And I can only imagine for you as an artist who started, you know, drawing on the bottom of a kitchen table to now have this. It's so incredibly cool. When you hear that
iconic sound, I automatically think Bradford, Pennsylvania. You know, it's such a great thing to hear.
I learned something new today that I did not know, that this sound is trademarked.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think there's only like 4 sounds in the world that are trademarked.
Wow.
And that's one of them. Isn't that incredible? I mean, it is that iconic. I was saying earlier, I was like, I bet if you just made that sound in a room full of people and they weren't allowed to look at what they were hearing, 90% of the people would know that it was a Zippo lighter for sure.
I love that. I love that.
All right, let's give another shout out to Scott, who's tuning into the live stream. Thank you, Scott. Scott wanted to know, what's your favorite design that you have ever carved?
Favorite design I've ever carved? Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Well, of course, this is number one. We're not going to say this is number one. I can't say that now. I guess anytime I get a chance to do something military related is fun, because the military just hits home for me. I've got a lot of family members in the military and that have passed, you know, that were in the military. And my son is actually in the military, in the U.S. Army. So anything I can do with military or veterans just moves me. And I did a 600-pound sculpture of the Iwo Jima. You can see that on my social media as well. But yeah, that anything military related is going to be where I draw myself.
Oh, that's amazing. And please thank your son for his service. We greatly appreciate that. So I want to know, as a very, very amateur pumpkin carver, like, are there like 3 tips that you can provide to people, like, because there's a lot of people who are going to start carving pumpkins if they haven't already for this Halloween season. Like for the layperson at home that wants to do something cool, what's something accessible that you could tell us or sort of guide us through to help us carve some really cool pumpkins this year?
Yeah, so typically when you think about the traditional jack-o'-lantern, you're cutting holes into the pumpkin that represent different features. When you're doing a 3D carving, you're doing the opposite of that. So like the human nose is what sticks out the furthest on the face for most of us. But when we're carving a jack-o'-lantern, we cut a hole. So when you're sculpting, you're going to do the opposite. You got to remove the material around it. So it's almost like you're working in the negative. So when you're sculpting a face, you want to dig the pumpkin out in the areas that are recessed on the face. But it's really just play with it and try. The tools are a big thing. You know, ribbon loop tools, those kind of things. You can't use just a regular pocket knife. You really need loop tools to do it.
Okay. And is there a specific type of knife? Because we've all gone, I mentioned this earlier as a joke, but like I've gone to the grocery store, I've bought that like 7-piece pumpkin carving kit or whatever it is that's got like the knife blade that like literally wants to snap in half the second you try to jab it in. Are there specific types of knives that we should look for when
case knives are fantastic knives, obviously. Those are the ones you want to, when you're cutting into the pumpkin, you want to use case. But when it comes to the actual sculpting process, these types of loop tools, I can show them up, and I'll put this on my social media as well. Eric Jones Studios, anything Eric Jones Studios, it'll come to my social media, and I'll show these up there. And I do sell a low-end beginner's package of carving tools that people can access as well.
And you also teach, right?
I teach. It's one of the reasons my voice is so raspy today. So I'm doing at least 2 classes a day. I'm teaching pumpkin carving all over New York and Pennsylvania. So I've been all over the place teaching these. I've had hundreds of students just in the last week or so. Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible. How cool that this thing that started all those years ago when you were a kid and then became characters has now turned into this thing where you're helping create like sort of this next wave of artists. Like that's got to be super rewarding to be giving back, like just like your grandmothers encouraged you all those years ago, and now you're passing that message.
Well, I did a class last night and there were a bunch of kids there and they all wanted pictures and they wanted to hold the bell, and kids are fascinated with this. And you heard me say I'm the world's biggest 9-year-old. I think what inspires kids so much about what I do is it's kind of a childish hobby that I turned into a career, and they love that because they can identify with it. They weren't told to put their passion aside and find a real job. It's like, here's somebody that hit 9 years old and made that a career, and they really admire that.
Yeah, I think that's what we all want, right? It's the age-old thing. Like you find something you love. If you do that, you never work a day in your life, sort of situation. And clearly you have found that. And I want to encourage everyone out there, if you've not gone to Zippo.com yet and picked up your lighter, make sure you do so. I have no doubt that this one is going to be one that sells out very, very quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if it sells out today. So please get over to Zippo.com, get this. I believe, is there free shipping? Can you guys confirm? I'm pretty sure like usually there's free shipping on this. Can anyone confirm that for me? We're all texting. We're going to figure it out here. Hopefully I didn't just get Zippo in trouble there. But
I'm sure it's not the first time.
Yeah, exactly. I was bound to do it at some point in time. But yeah, this thing is absolutely stunning. I'm so grateful that I got one. I'm so grateful that you and I got to hang out here today. So make sure you go to Zippo.com right now. Pick this up. Pick one up for you, for the Halloween lover in your life. Any last minute thoughts, tips for everyone as we get ready for spooky season, which is upon us here?
Happy carving. And people tell me all the time, oh, it's so sad. It's so sad that it's going to rot. We don't look at a flower that way. When we look at a real flower, we enjoy it that it's temporary. That's what's beautiful about a pumpkin. But here you have an opportunity to put it permanently on a lighter. So you got to get this. Okay. And I do want to confirm there's no free shipping. That was like I was like, come on. I was like, put it out into the universe. But, I'm sure it's pretty reasonable. You can cover the shipping costs, right? Yeah, probably not. But anyway, it's well worth it to pay for the shipping to get it here. I got to tour the factory today, and the way they pack these things up and get them out to you guys, they do everything with care. Like just watching the team over there and the way that they literally I was watching somebody just testing the hinges over there. And like this guy, he does it all day, every day. He knows the sound. So that everything that is happening on this end, from the manufacturing to the packaging of it to shipping it out to you, it is done with care, and it's done here in Bradford, Pennsylvania, here in the USA, which is amazing. And so grateful for Zippo for all that they do. I do want to remind you guys that we are going to have another artist live stream coming up in November. That'll be on Friday, November 17th. That one is super exciting. Obviously, Eric,
you're my new bestie. But this one, we're sort of going global with
Nice.
this next one, which
Nice.
which I'm super excited about. So please make sure you put that on your calendars. If you're not already subscribing to YouTube, Zippo on YouTube, please make sure you do that. Make sure you're following on all the social channels from Instagram to Facebook. Check out Eric's
Eric
social
Jones Studios. Yes.
Eric Jones Studios on Instagram. I followed you
Great.
last night.
Yes,
You followed
I
me
noticed
back.
that.
We're
Yes,
like
I did.
we're like Instagram besties now. But please come back again next month. Join us. You're not going to want to miss that one. And can't wait to see all the photos of you guys with your new Eric Jones pumpkin lighter that you'll be lighting up your pumpkins with this this Halloween season. So thank you so much for hanging out with us, Eric, my friend. This has been an absolute pleasure, man. Make sure you check him out on social media, and we'll see you guys again next month on the 17th. Until then, happy carving.
Happy carving.
As Eric says. All right. Thanks, guys. See ya. This is so cool.
It is.